Michael Sheridan here. Welcome to So You Think You're Awake, the show all about your dreams and their meanings. If you want your dream done, send it to radioshow@dream-analysis.com. And as always, if you want to come on the air, phone the station on 425-373-5527. That's 425-373-5527. You can find all these details and more, including archives of previous shows, on my website at dream-analysis.com/KKNW. And this week we're just going to get back into doing dreams. Last week I had Heidi on talking about channeling and answering some of your calls, and that has already turned out to be the most popular show so far from the archive. So thank you very much to everybody for tuning in and listening to that. It's always good to know, at least from the archives, that something is working. This week I have a number of dreams I find very exciting, and I'm hoping to get through them all. The first one is from Greg, and I'll tell you after I read it why I like this particular dream. He says, I'm in a ceremony with Robert. Now, Robert is a colleague of his. We're in a circle with at least 100 people in the middle of a field. Robert gives a couple of people gifts. People are starting to split into smaller groups. Robert wants us to circle up around him so he can demonstrate something with our group. Robert gives me a bright green branch and tells me to cut off the 5 little branches. The little stems are 1 to 2 inches each. I cut them off and hold them in my hand. I'm supposed to hold on to them for a ceremony the next day. Robert gives me a hug and says, is there no hill worth forgiving things? And yes, you heard that correctly. It doesn't seem to make sense. But then dreams don't seem to make sense. So the first thing in this dream, which is very interesting, is Robert gives Greg a gift. That means Robert is a guide. You can't fake this in a dream. So Robert's a guide in reality, even though he's here on the earth plane. And he's showing up for reals in Greg's dream and actually helping him. So the hug that's given at the end is one given on the astral plane, which is where dreams take place. And really, it's good to see this. We all have people, but they're usually incognito to us, that are helping us in our lives because they help us from the astral plane and spiritually more so than we're aware of. But here, I wouldn't be surprised if Greg is aware of this, aware of Robert's level. Robert definitely is. So if this is something you wanted to say to him, say, hey, thank you for everything you're doing for me. I would be not surprised if he actually knew all about it. Anyway, the dream takes place in the middle of a field, so it's about your heart. And then we have the bright green branch, which is also about the heart. That's the colour of the heart chakra. And it's interesting here. So Robert splits people up into smaller groups, and each group is going to do something different, I presume. You don't say that in the dream, but we would assume that that is the case. And he tells you to cut off 5 little branches off the branch that he gives you. This brings you back to the age 5. Dreams use lots of tricks to give us an age in dreams, but it's more than just that. I love how creative this is. I also love, it's kind of, well, I have notes later that I'll read out. But 5 here represents your sensitivity as well. I often say 5 is to do with karma, and it is, because karma is learning about ourselves through the 5 senses. But it is also about your sensitivity and your senses. So that's what it is in this dream. But here you're being told to hold these things in your hand for a ceremony that's the next day. So it's not now. You're to sleep on it because you have to sleep to get to the next day. And but what we can say already is, because your hand is emphasized, that you're a healer, and also the color bright green tells us you're a counselor. So these are 2 gifts. You work in the spiritual field. These are 2 gifts that you have. So you're in the right field. So why have this dream? Well, just looking at the notes, the dream says your focus is to heal your elimination system through opening your heart and forgiving everything and everyone. So there's a little bit of a culture difference between you and me here that I get from this dream. The dream sort of comes in story form. Anyway, people don't know this about you, but you're extremely sensitive, and we're given that by the number 5. And you can't afford to hold on to things given how open you are, because you need to be the open and compassionate person you need to be for the work you do, because you're working with people who need help and people who are going to have all sorts of illnesses and trauma. So you need to not be affected by those things. Obviously, you're going to be affected, but to be compassionate is that to allow people to be the way they are and realize that they're going to help themselves and grow in awareness by moving from the state they're in to where they need to get to. Anyway, The dream is sort of in the form of an unfinished parable or a puzzle, but is really finished because you were told to forgive. That's the solution. The dream asks you to hold on to these 5 little branches to prompt you to ask the question, why hold on to these? If the story continued, I mean, it doesn't in your dream, but if it did, Robert would keep on asking you every day to hold on to them for one more day, and then another, and then another. And he would keep telling you this, that the ceremony is always going to be tomorrow. And eventually, you would either get old or get tired of holding on to them and tell Robert, I can't hold on to these anymore. I need to live my life, and these are in the way. At which point Robert would say, the celebration is now. You have learned how holding on to things is pointless and can cause you problems, and that letting go is necessary. We celebrate with you your new wisdom. But, sometimes that is the life lesson. It's so simple we miss it. But in your case, you beat yourself up over things you do that you feel you could have done better. And that trait has no spiritual value for you. And you need to realize that. And once you do, you'll instantly be healed. Forgive yourself, especially you at the age 5. So something happened at the age 5, and that's where you first got mad at yourself for doing something, and you're not letting yourself off the hook. And literally, it's like let go of the little sticks you beat yourself up with, because that's what they are in the dream. I'm always kind of afraid that each dream I do, I'll either lose a friend or lose a listener because they're very personal and punchy. I mean, that's the whole thing about dreams. They don't hold back. But really, that's a good dream, because if you only have these dreams when you have a question on your mind about where does all this come from, and the dream is saying, look, elimination system issues, beating yourself up, and in fact your purpose in life are all connected. So to realize that this is the way you are and then deal with it, which I think will be easier than you think it will be, is you achieving a huge part of your life purpose. And what could be better news than that? And very interesting, though, the bright green, being given that gift by a guide in a dream is really, really cool. That's what tells us you're a counsellor. So I don't know whether you do that with people, but certainly it's one of your abilities. Now I have a quick one. Somebody says, I had these snakes, centipedes, and suicide dreams. And I put that after your one to show you some people are even worse. And I've seen this trait before in dreams where somebody is dying many different ways, being crucified, suicide, etc., etc. And again, this is a dream where somebody's beating themselves up over something that's bugging them, because the centipedes and other stuff are about things that bug you. But it's as simple as that. It's, of course, you rule out reality. If anything is going on in reality, if you're contemplating suicide, then you need to get professional help for that. But usually that isn't the case. Dreams aren't as clear on the surface as they seem. So the suicide dream is saying this is something that you're beating yourself up with, or you're persecuting yourself, would be a better way to put it, over. Something's gone on that you need to forgive yourself for. So here's another one then. I was in the back garden of my mother's house. There was a solid length of wood several feet long. I noticed it was actually meant to have a clear channel in it, but it was completely blocked. I cut a groove into it and started clearing out the channel. There was brown stuff with white at either end causing the block. I kept chipping away at it to clear it. I managed to clear it out, and what came out was like a white skipping rope with hard white ceramic handles. Okay, so in this dream is about the dreamer's elimination system, the colon. As soon as I heard the wood that was several feet long, the colon is like 6 feet long inside our bodies, and it's just because it has angles on it, we wouldn't realize that's the length of it. But the wood is going to represent that, and the dreamer correctly spots that this should be clear. There shouldn't be any blockages in this, and he gets to work in the dream clearing it out. Now the back garden is also about the elimination system, at least in this dream. It can be about the past, but here it's the elimination system, because the focus is on a physical object with a problem. And the colour of the blockage, the white stuff, tells us that this is to do with dairy. Dairy is a big issue for a lot of people. Once we leave 2 years old, we're probably not meant to drink it at all, but how frequently we see it in dreams. The milk, that is. So here it's saying the dreamer needs to cut down on that, in fact, cut it out. And that's the cause of his blockage. He's not able to handle it. Now, in this particular dreamer's case, he had an operation on his gallbladder and had the gallbladder sac and stones removed from his gallbladder about a year ago. And He admitted that he had this dream about a week before. He had excruciating pain in his stomach, or at least that's where he felt it. And he was having about 12 cups of cappuccino a day, which is an incredible amount. Had to check with him a number of times to make sure he really meant 12. And cappuccinos are coffees made with frothed milk, and it's at least half milk. So we know clearly the milk is the issue for this person. And he cut them out, and he had tablets that he still had for dealing with the problem when he got the gallbladder removed, and he's out of pain now, so that's good. But it's always good to have a little bit of feedback on these things. Same dream a week later, it just shows you how things move on. In the front of he has a dream again where he's in the front of his mother's house on the street, and he noticed a huge multi-story modern church right where the TV transmitter aerial used to be. And I was wondering who said they could put that there and why. So a TV transmitter in a dream is about somebody who has the ability to project their mind. They can create their future by projecting. It's a common enough ability. People who fly have the same ability. But this says, because it's on the street has to do a career. It says, when it comes to your career, you're to project the future that you want. And the modern church, multi-story church, of course, tells us it's about his spiritual ability, which is what this projection is. So you're being told to use that and use it with your career. And you're almost one of these unique people. It's almost always you will see career. And I know you make good money at the career you work at, and it's not in the spiritual field, but you nearly always see your spiritual abilities in dreams about your career as well. So there's going to be a switch. You're going to do something huge, probably in the physical field, to do with physics, in your career at some point, and you're being encouraged to really develop yourself and stay spiritual. Realize that the reason you're going to be making the money in the career you have is because you're going to do something hugely spiritual with it at a later point in time. But now you're being told to practice projecting what you want to happen. Okay, so here's a dream from Juliet. She says, I was going to a party. I was wearing a black dress and a black hat. My sister that died in the dream tells me to wear a red belt. Okay, so black has no redeeming features. The meaning of colours in dreams comes from their meaning in the aura. So, we all know you're going to look great in a little black dress, but that's not what it's about in a dream. It's always different. It's about fears and resentment, hatred, guilt, negativity. It's always something negative. And it says, well, we know what it's saying because your sister says wear this red belt with it. So black and red together as a colour combination is about anger. And your sister is basically telling you to express your anger and don't suppress it. And basically wear it on the surface, because that's what she's telling you with the belt. It's a stage of grief and necessary for healing. And the belt itself is a support device. So this is likely something you can get support to work through. Now, the anger may not be anything to do with your sister, I don't know, but she's helping you in the dream. She's supporting you. And note, it's interesting too, between this and the other dream where the dreamer was giving a gift, your sister doesn't give you a gift. So I just wanted to point it out to show we can get things in a dream, but here she tells you to wear a red belt, but she doesn't give you a red belt. So she's showing you that she's on your level and she's there for you and helping you through this, whatever's going on. And another one, because I saw the colour black. Hi, I want to ask the meaning of my dream last night. We're going on a trip with the family. When I was inside the car, I noticed that I was wearing all black, pants, t-shirt and sunglasses. Okay, so short little dream. And the meaning is, it's about fears you picked up from family, because black is all about fears. I like to be more specific, but we don't know in a real short dream what it is. So we know it's just something negative that is an influence from the family. And the sunglasses would say that you have a dark outlook on life, or it's your outlook is shaded, or how other way to put that you something now. It doesn't have to be about life itself. It could be about something that's going on now, and you don't expect the best to come of it. Like, you're not optimistic about it. So that's what the sunglasses would be about. And the t-shirt being black would say that you don't like having to choose, or your choices are affected negatively by family influences. Now, again, that's going to be easy for you to make sense to you, but it's common with so many of us. Our family is where we pick up all the dysfunctions that we have in our lives, deliberately so. We're meant to pick them up because it's through working on those working on these dysfunctions and eliminating them, that we grow in awareness and get closer to who and what we really are. So it's not about pointing a finger and saying this is where you fell down. Indeed, this is correctly what you picked up so that you can pick yourself up further by dealing with it. So here's 2 dreams now from the same dreamer, and we'll see a significant, we see a similarity and something really good. And this not this one, the next one is one dream that I really wanted to cover. It's really, really good. This is somebody who cut the ties, and we can see the effects of cutting the ties when they finish the process, cut the ties with their mom. And we can see the positive effects of this from this dream. So he says, I was returning home on Malaysian Airlines with lots of connecting flights. The seats were all a little lighter than Navy. We were awaiting takeoff on the final leg, but we're not restricted to our seats on the plane. So Navy is about having a negative philosophy of life, and lighter than Navy is saying pick that up. So cutting the ties has started this person having a more optimistic and positive outlook on life. A blonde-haired man seated next to me, and a blonde-haired man in a dream is typically going to be a guide, came from upstairs where a movie was playing. Yes, he came from upstairs, so definitely he's a guide, because upstairs is the spirit world, and told me a woman up there wanted to see me. Very good in a dream, because this dreamer cut the ties with a woman. He brought me upstairs to her and introduced us. She had a brand new baby girl wrapped in a blanket. The blanket was wrapped over and over. I took the baby and felt comfortable and experienced enough to hold a newborn. It took a while to position her to see her face. Her eyes were just open. Now this is really, really good. So this is your female side, and being with the baby there saying, okay, this is something you need to nurture. This is something new. You've got yourself into a really good space, and you're probably being overly protective because of the blanket being wrapped over and over. That's not a good thing in the dream. But you correctly kind of unwrap her so you can see her face. And of course, this is an aspect of you, and you're feeling comfortable with it, which is really good in the dream. So all really good there. And her eyes just open is about your eyes just being open, or your female side opening up, you opening up to your female side. And female side has to do with our inner world, our philosophy of life, our feelings, and so on. But it also is the strong connection with our higher self. That works on female energy. The woman asked me to write a letter to confirm I would support her and the baby. The details of her requirement are vague to me now, but were very clear in the dream. I was puzzled. I was wondering how on earth was I the father of the little girl? Well, you were, because you cut the ties, and she represents an aspect of you. Continuing on, then I wondered if the woman and I had sex the day before, and I was half convincing myself that it must be my baby and I should write the letter. Then it dawned on me, even if we did, 9 months had not passed, and so it couldn't be mine. I told the woman this and felt bad for her. She left with the baby. At this point I was engrossed in the movie, so watched it for a little while. Okay, so before I continue on, that's terrible. To have done that in the dream that was going so well, really, really bad. So you're trying to get in touch with your female side. Not only are you getting in touch with your female side, it's your higher self, because you've gone upstairs to make this connection. But then you find a reason to say, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be responsible, which is what a baby represents. I don't want to be responsible for nurturing this aspect of myself. Now, of course you do. Consciously, you know you want to be, but you made the mistake in the dream. So that's something you have to rectify. So watching the movie's about your expanded life. Movies mean that in a dream because they're the bigger picture. They're the biggest picture we're going to see. But also when movies came out, it's where we used to get the news before TVs and everything like that. So it's about the bigger picture of your life. But because it's upstairs, it's a bigger spiritual picture of your life. So you work in the spiritual field. That's great. Somehow I knew that the movie was part of a dream, but it was so amazing I wanted to take it into reality with me. It was the best movie ever. Of course it was, because it's the movie of your life. It's about what your life's about, and it's going to be feeling great to you because it connects with you. I was very conscious of the time. I knew I had to get back to my seat, so even though the movie was still playing, everyone, including me, sort of cleared out to get back to our seats. When I went downstairs, I was in the terminal and not on the plane. I couldn't find my way to the plane. Eventually, I saw 3 airline officials. Now, of course, you're not on the plane because he said no to the woman with the baby. And, of course, that sours everything. So they have to try something else. So it changes. I showed the first woman my boarding pass. Her reply was that she couldn't help me because of policy. She explained it by analogy. If she saw an engagement ring on someone's hand, she could not ask that woman questions because they are too personal. I asked the second woman and she told me the flight left 2 hours ago. I was in a dilemma and wondered if work would pay to change my ticket so I could get back home since I was the one who missed the connection. Okay, so you did miss the connection. The connection with your female side, which is what all your work was about. But that's okay. You're going to have another dream almost straight away and you will accept it. They're not going to let you away with this. But the first woman says it's about what she says, I can't ask a woman questions because they're too personal. That's exactly it. You don't want to get too close to people. You don't want to get, or let people get too close to you, get too personal with you. And that's the issue. So cutting the ties is allowing you drop this wall, drop the barrier between you and others, and allow people get close. That dream kind of went on, so apologies for that. I'm cutting the analysis short because this next dream, which was about 10 days later, is far, far better. And it's called Bird Gives Me a Feather. In the dream, a very high-flying bird pulled the largest feather from its body and flew down and gave it to me. I was in the back of a car being driven by my sister and her husband. The bird gave me the feather through the left window I was sitting at. I had to partially open it to take it. The bird sort of winked or smiled at me while giving the feather, like he knew I didn't expect it. The bird was very happy. We were all stunned and laughing with wonder at what just happened. Now that's the dream. This is probably one of the best dreams you can have. The bird is your higher self, and the dream shows that the goals you are pursuing, which was what driving in a car represents, are connecting you with your higher self. Actually, just like in the dream, it's the other way around. Your higher self holds back until it determines that connecting with you is a wise thing to do. It obviously is. Just remain open to letting your higher self connect. Because you opened the window in the dream, and it's a female energy connection because it's on the left. And expect really good things from here on as you're on the dharmic path now. Now, what's interesting is I got this dreamer to visualize going back into the dream with the airplane with the woman at the baby and getting him to sign the letter and accept and hug both of them and say he was going to support them forever and do that a number of times. So he did that to heal the negative impact he left behind in the other dream and then had this dream. So that was really good. So I'm looking at the time and I'm looking through the dreams I have to get to one that I definitely want to cover. Okay. So this lady says, last night I dreamed I was at a dock and I needed to get to a point in the water in 10 minutes. So 10 is to do a completion. It's a good number in dreams. It's a completion of the set of numbers we use. I was holding a playing card that had a red 10 on it. The number counted down from 10 to 9 to 4 to 3 and 2 and so on. And I knew I wouldn't make it in time if I swam by myself. So I jumped in the dark blue ocean water and swam towards some killer whales, and one gave me a ride. But it was hard to stay on the whale underwater sometimes. I floated off its back. Now that's a really good dream. So that's saying despite your fears, the dark blue tells us you're still fearful about the spiritual field, but you still dove in, and that's brilliant. This is the opposite of the guy with the dream about the woman and the baby. So you're doing exactly what you need to do and swimming towards the killer whales. And of course, the underwater part and floating off, that's okay. It's just, the whales, of course, represent your channeling ability. And it's saying that you don't really have the knack of staying with it yet. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. And your comments are really good. You said you were just thinking that last year I had a dream. I was on a beach and 2 mini killer whales came onto the sand and I jumped up and down on their skulls until their brains popped and they died because I saw them as attacking me. So this shows how in 1 year, and I know you've cut the ties as well with your mom. So in 1 year and cutting the ties with your mom, massive, massive difference in how things went on. And you also, how things changed. And you also told me that you got pregnant and were able to channel, as soon as you realized you were pregnant, you were able to channel the baby. And that's not uncommon. Countless times, including my ex, I have seen situations where a pregnancy makes the channeling just happen. It's not that it just happens, it's part of your nature. And the huge changes in your body, the physiological changes and the changes in your glandular system allow your guides to make any other changes they need in order for you to be able to hear them, which is really nice. So let's have a look at another dream, part of a dream. And it's only one part because I really like this little part, and I've already told the dreamer what the whole thing means. So it's called Das Bier Stube. So it's a German dreamer. And he says, we get in line to order beer at the bar. Now, a bar is usually about suppression of feelings or suppression of our nature. It's more of a short counter, really, only about 10 feet long. There's a young blonde barmaid in traditional German garb pouring and serving. They have 8 different kinds of beer, and each variety has its own custom glass. Now, 8 is going to be about either the age 8, typically, but here in this dream, it's also about the heart. 8 is a very common dream that comes up for people who have heart-related issues. And by heart-related, I mean have difficulty expressing their feelings. They just don't know how to. All of them are clear. This is the glasses. All of them are clear, some short, some tall, different shapes and sizes, and I think they all have emblems painted on them like a coat of arms. They're on high shelves behind the bar. Okay, so that's what I really liked about this dream, or this bit of the dream. All the different beer glasses with the emblems on them, the coat of arms. And the different glasses show how each person is uniquely tuned in how they block and or express their feelings, because they're all for different beers. So we're all symbolically in this dream, we all fancy particular beers that affect us the way they affect us, versus how somebody else drinks a different beer and it affects them. So our feelings are uniquely tuned, how we block them and how we express them. And it's our armor. That is our armor, because we see the coat of arms on the glasses. And in this case, it's the dreamers too. But you're being asked not to look down on this, see it for what it is. And the reason we can tell you're being asked to not look down on it is because the glasses are up on shelves, on high shelves. So this is something you're to look up to. So it's a revelation to you to realize that everybody has their own armor that we usually don't see behind, because they suppress their feelings behind whatever they want to show to us in reality. Okay, so another dream, and this person, her goal, what she really wants to do is work as an event organizer. So when you know that, you really look at the theme of the dream. She says it's called Website for Comic-Con. And Comic-Con is a huge event that takes place once a year in Seattle, where comic book heroes come here, like Iron Man, Stan Lee, the creator of all these characters was here this year, for instance. And it only happened a couple of weeks ago. We have 2 minutes. I'm looking over the website for Comic-Con, and I don't see any pictures for storing photos from the event or any information on who attended the event and or what happened in the event. I'm concerned, and I say we as I know there are more people, but I never saw them in my dream. We put together a list of requirements to update the web page, mostly a redesign of it. I ask for a spot for pictures of the actors that attended the event, a spot for pictures of people to upload on the website to capture what they dressed as, and to help remember the fun of the event and other requirements. The main purpose was to capture what the entire event was like and to have a memory of it so we can compare different events and years. The team put together the website. I'm reviewing it and updating it. It felt like there was lots of work to do and our time to complete it was running out. Well, that's okay. So here, this dream is saying, this is something that really gets you going. You would be able to expand on putting events together and be able to improve on them from year to year and be able to compare events with other events. So it's not just the individual events, it's an holistic view to events that you're going to be working on. And I know in your case you want to do things sort of like the Esther Hicks does with the Abraham series. So I know it's in that field, but that's really good dream. Giving you encouragement to do it and showing you that there's lots of work for you to do in that field, just like there was in the dream. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.